as concerned about that as you perhaps were. Was that right?
I've never had a problem with bringing in that stuff back from the past. I think the reason to do so has changed. At the beginning, when Russell was first doing it, you needed to get the dialect and the sound of it. And otherwise, you sort of think it wouldn't feel like proper Doctor Who. Now somehow the two series or the two versions of the show are just all joined up. And no one really worries about that. So we're not raiding the back catalogue to gain approval. We're just saying, ooh, that's good, can we have that? Or we could do something new with that. And there was 26 years of that show, and they came up with some really good stuff. So sometimes you want to grab it and do it again. And sometimes you think, we've got the technology now to finesse that. We could make it improve that. Sometimes we just think, let's do it exactly like that because it's brilliant.
One thing I want to know is if the after show here at the BFI is now canonical. If it is, I'm off.
I'm in a chronic hysteresis. Meglos fans are in. Certain people in this audience going, what the hell?
Not many.
So, as a director, I know you worked on a number of stories for Matt's Doctor, but in the sense, obviously, it's a very established team who are working sort of from story by story all the time. And as a director, kind of coming in, how is that experience for you? I mean, is it kind of strange having to sort of come in from the outside, or actually, how does that work?
No, it's not terribly strange. I mean, the only thing is I need quite a lot of guidance from other people about Doctor Who stuff, because when I found out that Tom Baker wasn't in it anymore, I realised.
Have you seen the 50th?
Yeah. Well, I'm now totally confused. But no, I took a lot of guidance from people like Steve, and I also took a lot of guidance from Matt Smith. Matt Smith would sort of correct me all the time when I got something completely wrong. But in terms of no, I mean it's not terribly difficult. I think as long as you understand it, for me, I mean I may be totally wrong, but as long as you understand the character of the Doctor, that's the starting point and the script. And the character of the Doctor to me was this guy who's a sort of 1,000-year-old genius who's also a 14-year-old boy, and he's a little bit in flux about the universe's cleverest man and a little bit of an idiot. He takes his friends on incredibly dangerous things and nearly destroys them and the universe and everything.
That's the best description I've ever
But it's quite simple, that, and I think in a way that's what works the program. Some of the stories are, of course, incredibly complicated. Some of the making of the stories is incredibly complicated, but the basic character is very simple, I think. And as somebody who's a sort of middle-aged man and a 14-year-old boy at the same time, I think I understood it quite well.
Stephen, one of the things that has been a kind of theme, in a sense, through some of the more recent discussions we've had during the 50th celebrations, has been the whole kind of thing about kind of secrecy and about the show. And in the earlier days, there might be a story in the tabloids of one of the companions was leaving, but of course the kind of the detail people really didn't have. Whereas now with the internet and so forth, everybody, in the world effectively can have a photograph on the set within a couple of seconds. And
I have noticed.
And there are people who absolutely are dying to kind of know, and from your point of view as being kind of custodian, I guess, it's trying to kind of contain as many of those secrets and not kind of have the spoilers as possible.
Well, it's changed entirely. It is all but impossible to make a TV show, which you make half in public with a bunch of people you barely know, to whom you have given a script and a schedule. I mean, and they leave them in the backs of cars, and I leave them on the train all the time. So it's impossible. It's impossible to keep those secrets. But it's not because we're being mean or horrid or just I don't want to tell you anything. It's just because it's better if you don't know. Now and then a surprise or a twist or a shock or a joyous moment can be nice. It was nice for those people who didn't know that Paul McGann was going to pop up, that he was going to be in Night of the Doctor. It was nice if you didn't know that Tom, and people seem to react quite considerably to half Peter Capaldi's face.
Soon the rest of his face.
One of my favourite memories of recent times is sitting here for Day of the Doctor, and that wonderful bit, Matt said I could retire and be curator of this place, and he just said, I rather think you might. And about two behind me just said, no!
But that is the point, isn't it? It's surprising. It can be joyous. And the impulse to spoil that for other people is a weird one. It is literally that boring bastard in the pub while you're halfway through your joke. Yes, I do this joke. I have no friends at all. But if I jerk the punchline out halfway through the joke, I'll prove that I'm popular and interesting. And it never works for them, and yet they always do it.
Following through on this kind of this thing about confidentiality, Dan, from your point of view as an actor, I mean, how much kind of secrecy, are you kind of sworn to and goes on the set and so forth?
Yeah, I'll keep stum about that one. No, I mean, obviously, when you sign the contract, there is a legally binding document which says you will not sort of disclose various things like that. I mean, obviously, I take notice of what is in the public realm and what is not, because people do ask me some questions, and sometimes on Twitter people will ask you what the plot of the new episode is, and you will go, politely ignore that one, because of course I'm not going to. But yeah, it's. I think you're aware of how intense people are excited about it. And so with the 50th special, I did a bit just before the cinematic screen of it. They'll go, are you in the 50th special? And I would just keep stum. I don't want to say yes or no. But
it doesn't. It's always talked about as if we're going to do something terrible. Sworn to secrecy, held or something. But what it basically comes down to is if you tell people, we'll be really quite irritated. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We haven't got any power yet. Nothing's going to happen to anyone.
When you're planning a season, the kind of the way it seems to be going in recent times is this kind of sort of story arc, whereby sort of bit by bit the story will kind of unfold. When you as a writer are kind of putting that together, and then obviously you have to communicate some of that to the other writers and so forth, is that just coming out of like one idea that something comes to you and then you kind of build everything around it, or how does that kind of evolve in
Well, I suppose a start point and an end point where you want to get to, what mysteries you want to solve along the way, and how much of it you want to do, really. I mean, Doctor Who will always be principally about the story of the week, because it's that kind of show. Really, Doctor Who, because it's got a huge audience, people, what that means is most of the audience don't see every episode. So, whereas if you watch some brilliant show like Breaking Bad, you'd be absolutely lost if you hadn't seen all of it and remembered it fairly well. I mean, you really would be lost. But Doctor Who can't be that way. It has to be, the arc has to be there if you want to.
And are you genuinely as kind of encyclopedic about the show as you appear to be, or is there somebody somewhere who's kind of sort of feeding in stuff? Is there kind of like a Doctor Who Bible somewhere?
Doctor Who Bible. It's just the Bible. No, there isn't a Bible. I'm pretty encyclopedic. So no, there isn't somebody who has to come correct or continue. Do you know what? The truth is, it's like what Saul just said there. He perfectly summed up the show, not having seen much of it. It doesn't take. If there was a Doctor Who Bible, it'd be about a page long. He's from Gallifrey. He lives in a box that's bigger on the inside. He can travel anywhere in space and time, and it was like a phone box. There you go. Off you go. That's it.
And as far as you're concerned, are there any kind of do's or don'ts, or actually is everything up for grabs at the end of the day?
It's kind of hardwired into me, but I think it's hardwired into anyone who's seen Doctor Who. You know the audience is for. You just sort of know what is tonally right for that show. I mean, it can be properly frightening, but you don't actually want kids to not watch it because they're too scared. It's obviously it can't be horribly, it can't be too sexy, it can't be too horrific. But these are almost aesthetic preferences for that kind of show, rather than restrictions of time. But I can't recall being told not to do something.
There's only one. One must not mispronounce Metzstein.
Sadly, however, in Planet of the Spiders, they didn't. And it took me years. That pronunciation is racist to all spiders. And agreed that.
Grunde.
And in terms of, I don't know whether those of us who are really hung up with the numbers in terms of which number doctors are.
Okay, there's a point to be made about this.
Oh, we just
He's not in the show. He doesn't go around saying, I'm the 11th Doctor. He doesn't. He says, I'm the Doctor. Have you moved house a lot in your life? What number house are you on?
I was 17.
Number 17.
No, sorry. My husband
Right, okay, hang on. You don't know how many houses you have. The doctor, if you were a real person, which actually he is, and it's a big secret, would probably know if you asked him which regeneration he's on. And it's Tom Spilsbury, editor of Doctor Who magazine, was observing the other day. It's really quite late on in Doctor Who's history. We ever start this thing of saying, I think it's the commentator, but he's the sixth Doctor. He's just the Doctor, and he's got his sixth face. In the Five Doctors, there's a moment when the first Doctor arrives in Peter Davison's TARDIS and says, regeneration, and he says, correctly, fourth. Because he is. He's only regenerated 4 times by that point. He doesn't even think of himself as the fifth Doctor. So the numbering only matters to, when you're talking about the show. It doesn't matter within the show. However, because I love you, I share your pain and your need to make wall charts every night. I have come up with a system for this. Right? There are only 11 Doctors to date, right? Because the John Hurt Doctor did not call himself the Doctor. And the 10th Doctor, when he regenerated into himself, didn't call himself the 10th or the 11th Doctor. There are only 11 versions of the Time Lord who calls himself the Doctor. So Matt is the 11th Doctor.
What about Brennan Orbit?
You know, for years, I really resented the Deadly Assassin. Because I thought, you've just screwed him up. We know perfectly well that William Hartnell was not the first Doctor. As we've seen it in the Brennan Morbius. For some reason, that bit continues to
Well, let's not even go to Peter Cushing. Let's just leave it right. Let's have some questions.
I just want to say, because we're here and he's not here, we should really say, we should toast Matt Smith.
Absolutely.
He's about to go and has been the most amazing.